I'm Rachel here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 292, and we're asking, what's the best way to track your WIP's progress? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free as we have plenty of goodies for all. And if you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For that, you'll get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies and access to monthly bonuses, all while helping to support the show. But if that's not your style and you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already, and consider dropping us a like if you're listening on YouTube. What is the best way to track your work in progress? There is no best way. It really all depends on how you want to track your progress. And sometimes that's going to change over time, like it did for me. Other times you just might find what works for you and stick with it for years and years and years. And that's great too. One of the ways you can track your progress is by word count. And I feel like I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I feel like this is one of the most common ways to track your WIP's progress. And it's the way that I used to always track my progress. And one of the reasons for that was because I participated in NaNoWriMo way back in the day, long before all the crap that happened surrounding the challenge. And the purpose of that was to write 50,000 words in 1 month. And that's what I would do. And I would try to do my own quote unquote NaNoWriMo challenges during other months. I would do it by myself. I would do it with my sister, but I would always track my words. Sometimes I would try to have a monthly word count that I wanted to meet. Other times I would have a daily word count. And for a long time, that daily word count was 2,000 words. I would try to write 2,000 words a day. And for a while that worked because, I don't think I had the stress of writing on me as it does now, because I didn't have anything published and I wasn't really that big on the internet or anything like that, or not that I'm big on the internet. I wasn't that present on the internet, I should say. And it was more so as a hobby. So I was able to meet that 2,000 word count a day for a long time until I didn't. And then that's when I started to realize that tracking my word count didn't really work for me anymore, because it would just make me feel sad and bad about myself, because if I didn't get any writing done at all, or if I reached like 1,800 words, I still felt like I failed because I didn't reach that 2,000 marker. And I'm not saying that tracking your words is a bad thing. Obviously, it works for many people, and it did work for me for a while, and then until it just didn't, and I didn't know how else to track my novels. I didn't know how to track my progress other than the word count. So I kept trying to stick with it. I changed the word count to 500 words a day, to 100 words a day. I would even try to change it to just 1,000 words a week, or whatever that equals to a day. And I tried to make sure it took a long time for me to realize that I don't have to write every single day. A writing routine doesn't mean that you write on the daily. A writing routine means that you just write consistently during the week or the month or whatever. So I had to play around with it. And for some reason, nothing was working. It didn't matter if I wrote every day. It didn't matter if I wrote once a week, twice a week. It didn't matter if I met my word count or not. It just didn't seem to work for me. I wasn't being productive and I didn't feel good about it. I saw an interview between Stephen King and George R.R. Martin, and Martin asked King how he's productive. And King said that he aims for 6 pages a day, I think. I was like, all right, well, tracking pages doesn't seem like a bad idea. Did I try it? No, I didn't. I meant to, never did, because I found a handy dandy tool called TrackBear. And I found this because of NaNoWriMo's demise. So it kind of worked out in a way. And you can track whatever you want in TrackBear. It can be words, it can be pages. But what stuck out to me was that it could also be time. And that's what I started doing, because for a long time I got in this funk where I just wasn't getting any writing done. So I decided, well, if I can write just for 20 minutes a day, even if I don't get any writing done, if I sit at my desk and I have my Scrivener up and I look at my current novel and I'm thinking about it for 20 minutes, I'm going to count that as a win. And that's how I started tracking that time. And I use TrackBear, and I set a timer when I work, or I set the stopwatch. I don't set a timer because then I feel like I got to race the timer, and that doesn't work for me. And then I freeze up. So I set a stopwatch, and then I flip my phone over and I don't think about it, and I just go. And sometimes I'll flip it over and it'll be only 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh, wow, that it really hasn't been that long. Other times I flip it over and I'm like, oh, wow, it's been 45 minutes. Look at me go. And then I feel good about myself, and it's great. And I feel more productive with my writing, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's editing or writing or outlining, brainstorming, research, whatever, as long as I'm spending that allotted time thinking about my work. And then I go on to TrackBear, and at the time of recording this, we're recording this in July, and I started using TrackBear early 2025. I have already put 65 hours into it, and I divided that by, daily. Obviously, I didn't write every single day, but if I did, that equals to almost 3 hours a day. That's a lot. I mean, it's when you look at it that way, even if it doesn't feel like you got a lot done, it's still productive. And I have found that I'm actually more productive with my writing if I track my time versus the pages or the words.
It's really weird because I'm very similar because I prefer a word count. And the reason being is my day is mostly fractured, and it has been for a long time. So time is not always on my side. So being able to have like blocks of time where I could track it by time never really worked for me. Although I do like the way, as you said, Rachel, that you have a stopwatch rather than a countdown. So you don't block a time and then try and fill it, like count it down. You just write and put your stopwatch on, then you find out how much you've written, which can be quite good. I like that because it's like you're not rushing the clock. And you would definitely rush, even if you weren't looking at it, there'd be that part of your brain constantly like, I wonder what it is, wonder what it is. And also I think if it had an alarm and it went off and you were right in the flow, having to stop and turn the alarm off, I bet that would mess you up a bit when you're right in the flow of it.
It absolutely would, yeah. And I think it's different too, because when you have the stopwatch, obviously you can pause the timer. But when I have the stopwatch on, if I get interrupted by something or I have to get up and like take the dog out or whatever, I always pause it. And for some reason, I feel like I don't check the stopwatch nearly as much as I did with the timer, because I would always say, oh, how much time do I have left? It's never like, oh, I wonder how long I've been going. It's never a positive thing. It's always a negative thing. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's just my brain. And I mean, I like writing. I really do. I know it sounds like I don't sometimes, but it's just that like, oh, how much time left? And I don't know, it has a different effect when I use the stopwatch versus the timer.
Yeah, I can see that knowing that there's like it's counting down. There is a strangely negative connotation to that. So yeah, that's why I never use time. Pages I never understood, right? I never understood because when I first heard someone say, "Oh yes, like I write this many pages a month," the first thing my brain would do was go, "Pages in a book?" Or like pages on like if you're writing in Word, like is that full page? Is that how many pages it is? Or are you talking about a book's pages? Because on average, this is only an average, an estimate, a paperback novel is around about 250 to 300 words per page, roughly. Obviously, if you're writing in Word, most of the time you have it set up normally, so it's like an A4 or a letter size, depending on where you are. And that's a bigger page, but that's obviously because I've worked in offices for a long time. When someone says page to me, and you're writing in Word, that's what I think, this big page. Now, obviously, that page might have enough words on it for like 2 pages of a novel or whatever, depending on what it is. So I used to get like, whenever I hear people say like, oh, pages, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then because I write in Scrivener, which is just like the document just keeps going, to be honest, the idea of them doing maths, of being like, right, I've written this many words and that turns out to be this many pages. It's like, I'm not doing maths. I don't care. That's too much effort for me. So no, I'm not doing that. So I do stick with word counts, but I don't tie myself to them like I used to. And Rach, I love that you were like, oh yeah, 2000. It's like, oh my gosh. I remember there was a point when I first joined like the writing community online, and there'd be like these like writing coaches and like, you know, pop up every now and then. It's like, if you can only write, you know, 1,000 words a day, it's okay. And it's like, whoa, excuse me? You're making it out like that's a low number? It's like, people have lives. Not everyone has the time, energy, or mental capacity to write 1,000 words every day. I appreciate that NaNoWriMo is 1,600, 700,
Yeah, it was like
1,669.
1,667 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But there's a reason that NaNoWriMo did it for 1 month. You know, it's not like NaNoWriMo forever all the time. And obviously, some people find that easy. That's great. But whenever it was put this way, where it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, don't worry if you're only writing 1,000 words a day and other people are writing more. It's like you're still doing it, and it's like, whoa, some of us could only manage 300 words a day, and especially if you think about the fact that a book page is 250 to 300 words a day, that's not bad. But I don't even try and do it like I write every month or every day this much. Mine goes down to, if I'm sitting at the desk and I'm writing, then I try and write between 300 and 500 words. I can often go over and hit over 1,000, but it doesn't hurt me as much if I can only hit 300. Or some days I've done 7 and nothing has come and I've struggled. And on those days, I don't beat myself up anymore. I used to. I just go back and I read what I've written. Or I go to one of my other projects and I just read through it and I kind of remind myself that it's okay. I'm not a terrible writer. I do like writing. The writing is there. When it comes, it's good, but sometimes it's not coming. But I try not to give myself a big number, and I say that as I did the 85K challenge, but that was spread over 3 months. And again, rather than saying I'm going to write, you know, 1,000 words a day, and sort of pocket myself, I literally went, I just want to hit 85K in 3 months. So there were days when I wrote nothing, and then days when I had really good days and I was writing like 3 or 4,000 words a day, and then other days where I had nothing, and then I'd write 2,000 words or 500 words or 7 words. Now I do like the 85K challenge, but I wouldn't want to do it throughout the whole year. I wouldn't want to be like, every year, every day I've got to write this much, every month I've got to write this much, because it does really put pressure on you. And let's be honest, we've got enough pressure. And I'm not saying you should be like, you know, la-da about your writing and everything. If you want to do it properly and you want to do it as a business in any form, or if you just want to make sure you get finished, say that as, this novel is killing me, you do need some form of structure. But we can so easily pin ourselves by going, I have to write this many words, I have to do this many pages. I think trying different things, because as Rich said, word count is probably the most common, and that's what we all fall into at the very beginning when we start writing. But it might not work for you. Time and pages doesn't really work for me. I like to track my word count. I don't like dig in too intensely, and I start with a smaller amount because there's that nice little dopamine hit of, yay, I wrote 100 words, which isn't much. You realize it's actually not much, but it helps to get you to the next section when you're doing it. You know, you put a smaller win and then you hit that, it's easier to carry on than putting a big win and then struggling to hit it. But as Rachel said, it's like, sometimes it might be that time's better for you. Sometimes it's pages is better for you. Could be that you just want to get a chapter done every week. Doesn't matter how many pages or words, you just want to write a chapter a week or a chapter a month. But you definitely need to think of what it is. I mean, as I said, we fall into the word count one, but if you're struggling with it, lower it. If you're struggling with it, try something else. Definitely. Because as I said, I never even considered time or pages when I started writing, and they just didn't work for me. But I wouldn't have even thought about it. So it makes me wonder how many other writers don't even think about the fact that they could track their words they track their progress in a different way.
Well, yeah, I never really thought to use time either until I started using TrackBear. And it's a free website, by the way, everybody. If you haven't heard of it, it's trackbear.app. Bear is spelled BEAR, like, you know, I think a polar bear is its mascot. And you can track words, pages, time, or also scenes, also chapters. So, you know, however you want to track your progress, go for it. And I started using time because it was an option, and I just wanted to get myself back into writing. I wanted to get back into that routine. And even now you can set monthly goals. And it's not like I set it so that I'm working on my writing 20 or 30 minutes a day every single day. I set it for if I had a really bad month last month, then for this month my goal will be like 10 to 15 hours total. If I had a really good month last month, then for this month I might say that I want to write for 20 to 25 hours. And I try to cater that towards like Monday through Friday, with the assumption that I don't get any writing done on the weekends, because usually we're busier on the weekends. But I also go to Barnes and Noble every Saturday and I write with my sisters. So sometimes I end up going over anyway. And if I aim for 20 minutes per session and I end up writing for an hour and a half, well, then I write extra and it's great. Sometimes you just get into that groove. And I understand what you mean, Ari, when you mentioned the word count, where, those writing coaches would say, if you can only write 1,000 words a day, that's okay. That's what caught me in that word count trap when I said I need to write 2,000 words a day, because if I wrote any less than that, I felt like I wasn't a writer. I felt like I wasn't being productive enough. And for a long time, it did work for me because I had less stress. All I had was the writing. I wasn't trying to meet a deadline for an editor. I wasn't trying to self-publish anything. I wasn't doing any marketing, worrying about social media. It was just myself and the story. So it was different. And then obviously you get older and I shared more on the internet and my goals changed. It wasn't just myself and the story. Now I had like a whole audience that I was trying to cater to, or that I was trying to, bring over to the dark side. And it changed things. And that's why word counts didn't work for me anymore. And I want to bounce off of what you mentioned about pages, like 10 minutes ago. I write in Scrivener as well. So pages obviously don't work for me because it's just one long document unless you have the different scenes and stuff. I think counting your pages would work if you were writing a script. That would work. And maybe I'll give that a try whenever I start writing, my own scripts. But ultimately, I think writing pages, because the other thing is I am a dialogue heavy writer. So if I try to aim for 6 pages a day like Stephen King, I might blow through that 6 pages so fast because I'm not writing huge blocky chunks of text. Ari, what did you say the word count per page was? Like 300, 350?
For a fiction novel, it's 250 to 300, but for screenplay, apparently it's like 150 to 200.
Oh, okay. Well, for the fiction novel, I would probably be writing much less per page because I wouldn't be writing those big chunky paragraphs. It would just be like a bunch of one-liners almost. So it wouldn't really gauge what I was accomplishing with my work, I don't think. Because to me, I'd be like, wow, look at me. I wrote 10 pages in a couple of hours, but really I only wrote like, I don't know, 700 words maybe. And I would actually, even though the page count would be a lot, I think in terms of the actual writing, I would be getting less done each day.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Although obviously, think about the fact that each page is still part of the novel. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to write, a novel of like 300 pages, it's like blowing through that many pages, doesn't matter about the word count. So while you were talking, I was just having a snoop on Trackbear, and oh my god, this is brilliant. And the bit that caught my eye, because first of all, it's a nice, clean, easy website. I freaking love clean, easy websites. The bit I like is at the bottom, and it says Trackbear is designed with privacy in mind and will always be free to use. Trackbear isn't a social network, a chat platform, or AI powered, and there is no premium tier or pay to play. There are no ads, no third-party tracking, and no data harvesting. It is just a place to track your writing. So they've got this lovely website for a free product for you to try. They're not stealing your data. Well, we assume not, but I'm going to go with what they say, and I don't believe they're going to try and steal your data because you're just tracking your information, not putting loads of stuff in. And I think that is lovely. We get so little of that. Everything's monetized now. Everything's like, it's either monetized or it's taking your data, or it's doing both. And again, there's nothing wrong with monetization. No, we have a coffee page, so we can't say anything. But I think it's lovely having an app that isn't trying to sell you something or take your data or anything, or powered by AI. And I am already like, right, I am going to start using this. So yeah, we'll put a link in the bottom because this is brilliant. And it is a little polar bear at the top with the mascot.
It's a really good website. And the nice thing about it is that you can, or one of the nice things about it is that you can have leaderboards. So I don't set specific monthly goals for myself. Every month I create a different leaderboard and I share it with my sister and my two cousins. And I track my time that I work on my novels. My sister tracks her word count. My cousin will track her word count or her time, depending on how she's feeling with the month for her book. And my other cousin, she doesn't write, but she's been trying to be better at reading. So she tracks pages and see how many pages in her books that she can get through. So we're all working on our own different goals and we see it on this fancy little color coded chart and we race each other to see who can get there first. So if you haven't heard of TrackBear and you're looking for a platform to help keep yourself accountable with your progress, TrackBear is a really good tool to use. And as Ari said, it's 100% free. So yeah, and again, you can track your words, your time, your pages, or you can also do chapters or track it by scene if that's how you write, which Ari, I know that's how you write. So yeah, it's useful for literally everybody because it doesn't even need to be catered to writing technically.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks nice and clean, but also like it's not just really basic, it's got a nice look to it. So yeah, see, I barely knew about this and now I'm like swayed and ready to sign up and everything.
Which is hilarious because I emailed you about it when I got it and you were like, no, I need a notebook.
I did, yes. And honestly, I probably still will use my notebook. I like to track that. But if nothing else, I like the idea of supporting a company that
Yes.
put this out for free, that isn't harvesting anything. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like a lot of programs that work, and I will happy to pay. And TrackBear has a coffee page, so if you want to support them by donating, because obviously it's a website that has hosting and everything, so be supportive. But I like that, and I like supporting companies and these little entrepreneurial things where they throw things out for people. I think it's nice, and yeah. So even if I don't use it all the time, and I still have my own tracking on my analog, I want to be supportive. But I also forgot that I even said that. But yes, that sounds like me.
Oh, I know. I'm just giving you crap about it. But yeah, no, because I like keeping track in my notebook as well because the thing with TrackBear is even though it's .app, there actually is no app. It's just the website on the browser. So if you're writing elsewhere and you don't have internet access or anything, you can't update it right away. So if you forget to update it, then too bad, so sad. So yeah, I still have it in my notebooks as well. Just I like to keep track of the same thing in 5 different locations because I don't know why. But yeah, so that's our thoughts on tracking your progress for your current WIP. If you do words, time versus pages, whatever, just do whatever works for you. And again, it's going to change over time. Ari does words, and it seems like you kind of always have done words, right? Yeah. And I started with words, and then things changed, and now I do time, and time has been. I think it's been helping me manage my time better too, which has been helping a lot. So it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Hooray, hurrah, hooroo. So before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, and opportunities to be a guest on the show, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. And now we'll turn it over to you guys. How do you measure your novel's progress? Let us know your answers in the comments so we can chat about it because we're curious. And remember, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Next week, we're interviewing another guest. So to ensure you don't miss that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. See you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Another New Notebook, Just Because. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.